welcome to the Tech School Podcast. Jamie, Doris, Carlos, Josh. How's everyone doing?
Doing good.
Doing good?
Doing good, yeah.
All right, good vibes. I want to bring in Doris. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing quite well, my friend. So it's my understanding you were here in the beginning for DSDT when things really got going. Give us your background.
So my background is in post-secondary education, and I wanted to be a teacher since I was a little girl, and then I got to college, and I said I have to be, and no offense to the teachers, but in a classroom reading from a book from somebody I don't know with the same kids. I said that's not going to be for me. And at the age of 24, Mort Meisner and Jack Rushko opened a school, Center for Film Studies, and they said it's just an admin position. Come on in, you're just going to help out. And that's when the film industry was here in Detroit. So we worked with the local unions, getting them back to work. And I found a love with working with, and I don't want to say older people, but over the age of 18 to help. Old folks. No.
Grown folks. Grown folks.
Grown folks. I like that a lot more. 18 and up, okay? Let's just say that. And helping them find like purpose and passion. And so we were doing great. Everything was going well, and they cut the film industry.
Yeah.
And
the incentives.
Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of like we were trying to get it going, keeping it going, and it just wasn't happening. And then I received word that somebody was interested in buying the school. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, do you think you can maybe just go, you've created the processes, just kind of go there. And then that was Astute Artistry. Mm-hmm. And that's when I met Jamie. And at that time was the makeup school. Mm-hmm. And her and I, we became close friends. And then after that, I kind of went on to Specs Howard School of Media Arts. I became the internship coordinator there. And, it was interesting because obviously broadcasting, and I was working with the graphic designer and with all these types of backgrounds with students. But I started noticing if a student had a barrier, they had a circumstance, whatever it was, even if they had all the skill sets, they wouldn't make it, So we had to work with them. And I only had so much time. So after a few years, I saw Jamie opened up DSDT. And I said, something is leading me here. I don't know what it is. And I think I walked in the door, didn't I? I was just like, hey, I'm coming over. And I just walked in the door.
No, you sent me a Facebook message.
I did send you a Facebook message.
And I don't even really, it's kind of funny because we are in a technology school and we love technology, but I don't really use social media. So at that point, I didn't even really know how to get my messages. So it was so weird.
That, right? Yeah. You're in technology, but you don't use social media. It's a work in progress. We'll get around to it.
It's just because I like to keep my personal life separate. I don't really like to put all my business out on the internet. So I think that she sent me a message, and I was just like, it was rare that I could even find my messages at that point. So the fact that I saw it was like, yeah. I don't know.
It was
Kismet. What is it? Fate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, I walked in the door, and I think at that time there was maybe 4 or 5 students in the building probably. At that time. Yep. I think right when I came in, I think it was Artie. Yeah. Artie was. Yeah. Love Artie, but it was, it just kind of started out like that, and I gotta tell you, it just moved so fast. Like, I'm like sitting here, and I haven't been here, in some time, and it's just like crazy how it moved so fast. I mean, we brought in 250 students within like a couple months, and it was
all Detroiters.
All Detroiters.
It was not.
No.
Give us the 411, Carlo.
When you're talking about perspective of where are the students, nobody knows. We didn't know where we were going to get students from. I remember we had this little young team of guys that were charged with going out in the community and handing out flyers and just doing anything we could in order to kind of get DSDT out there. Nobody knew who we were, right? And so the students were very difficult at that time to find.
Yeah, I mean, they were. And, I think from us with the partnerships is, the three of us all have a different kind of vibe and energy. It's like sometimes when Carlos had to go in, when Jamie had to go in, or I would have to come in. And I think building the relationships with who we worked with, the number one thing for us was so important is the student matters, you know?
How did you connect with students in the beginning? As Carlos alluded to, we were trying to get the word out there. We didn't know where this was truly headed initially.
Let me answer this one. I just got to tell it like it is. You know,
Tell it how it is.
right? So I can remember Torian coming back one day from Michigan Works, right? And he was saying that they were not allowing any students to come as of yet. And Jamie had literally gone over there 1,000,005 times in order to make them aware of the program, what she was doing, and she just could not get any students for Nathan. Right? So Torian came in and he tells me this, and I said, come on, let's go over to Northwest Activity Center because I want to go speak to whoever's in charge and find out what's going on. We went over that day. We spoke to the person, I think Mr. Jimmy Green, if he's still there. Jimmy Green was one of the ones who came out. We made him aware of what we were doing. I mean, you just think we're just some guys that are showing up and saying that we've got this school. Can you send us individuals? We're already certified and registered in Michigan Talent Bank. And by the way, Jamie's been over here 1,000,000 times. Everybody knows who's Jamie is, right? They're just not sending any students. So once we went over and we had that meeting, that's when the faucet opened. I mean, I think that first round we got like 25 students or something, and it was more or less a testing phase. Reggie Williams, thanks to him at
Lil Reg.
DESC.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lil Reg.
Lil Reg.
Promise in our program.
Right.
So he was the one that actually gave Jimmy the go-ahead to actually send us students. So from that point on, it was like, let's get everybody in Detroit, send them to Michigan Works, and we're going to train them, get them a job. And it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, it was, because I remember opening the email and I remember seeing it and I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. I was like, Jamie. I was like this, but the 25. But the thing about it was, and I'm going to be just open and honest, is,
Please.
we worked with Michigan. I've worked with Michigan Works since, first time I opened up the school. Is each area is different, but working with Detroiters that's when we knew we had to work with them at their core. It wasn't just give them a CompTIA certificate, because the circumstance at home, we had one of the students, and she was homeless. She was living in her car, and I remember we would let her in to go in the bathroom to just shower up and just get cleaned up, and really worked with her internally of like processing, giving her resources, giving her tools. And, I just looked about, 6 months ago, she just put a down payment on a house. She works for GM. Yeah. I mean, that's like,
you can
do it. And it was just like, that was that thing. But she felt so comfortable that here felt better than, she didn't even have a home, but that it was home. We would have students that would come and stay here for how many months after?
We still have them that come back. I mean, they're like, hey, can I grab a computer? I don't know where else to go. I have clients now because you taught me this skill, but I don't have a computer still. I got to come here, Yeah. But we're an open door like that.
That's how it was built, and that's how we were all about, is meeting the students. And the stories we have of the soft skills development, the character education part of it, the humanness of meeting students, especially in Detroit. There are different situations and backgrounds what they're coming from, working with them at the core.
Let me give you a real story.
Okay.
That wasn't,
what?
But this was so real for me, right? So we initially had a computer programming course, and we hired this instructor. He came from one of the well-known programs around. And so we brought him in. He's going to start teaching a class of Detroiters computer programming. And literally the first thing he came out to us and said, this is going to be difficult. And I said, why? He said, they don't know how to type. I said, what? Now, and so many times you hear these organizations and you hear these companies come in and they talk about these technology opportunities. Well, what if the individuals that you're speaking to can't even connect with the opportunity because they lack the fundamental skill sets?
Wow.
So many times we're talking to individuals who don't even have a Google Mail or, a Google Drive, and we have to train them with some of the basics before we can even get them into your fundamental IT course. And that's the realness of the opportunities that we provide.
How do we get the word out? How do we correct the lack of fundamentals to speed up the process, to level the playing field even more? Because that's holding you back to what you can do for the students when you have to teach them how to type.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you learn in the 9th grade.
No,
Yeah.
you don't. Don't cut it out, Josh. Let me be honest now.
Okay. That's something you're supposed to learn
supposed
in
to.
the 9th.
Supposed to.
Yeah.
That's something you're supposed to learn in the 9th grade.
In the 12th grade.
Yeah.
12th grade, I dropped out of typing because I hated it. Home road what? I'm not doing it. When I get to college, I went to college. Yeah, so you already know that, right? I get to college, I had to take typing again. And I dropped out of it again. I hated it. It wasn't until I was sitting with nothing but a typewriter, which I had to be at a typewriter, and I just kept doing things time and time again, that one day, and I'll never forget it, it was as if a light switch was turned on. It was like click, and I just found myself looking at the screen and just typing. So now I type pretty, robustly, but at the same time, it wasn't something that simply go take the class and you'll learn how to type. It wasn't like that. Not for all of us.
No.
Some of us wanted to go listen to some LL Cool J. Hey. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to necessarily go to typing class.
Right.
So just keeping it on the reels. I know individuals now that are in our program and they still don't have a lot of the typing skills, but they're developing more of the intuition of the skill itself, right? We're trying to teach them to maximize what they're capable of doing, as opposed to, trying to offset some of those fundamental skills. If typing isn't your thing, like it wasn't for Carlos, then how can we get you into a place to where you're still marketable to the employers that are looking for you? You got employers right now that are coming up with programs because they need individuals to meet certain needs. And even though typing may not be great for you, maybe we can put you somewhere else. IT is all around us.
Okay, so what kind of jobs are out there, good jobs, that don't require someone who knows how to type?
Drone technology.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Video
Quick.
3D printing.
Throw some more at me.
God, even all the CompTIAs, networking, call center,
hands-on,
programming.
Now, the students you come across who don't know how to type, I don't want to leave this for a second. What are their age range? Are they 18, 22, 32, 35, 45?
It's a whole gamut.
Oh, yeah.
It's all
It's-
gamut. And it's not, we think that the younger generation know X, Y. Oh, they grew up with technology. That's not necessarily the case. They know everything about that mobile device than they do about this desktop over here. So let's think about that. A lot of the households of the demographics that we specifically work with, they don't have desktop computers in their homes. So that means that they only have the view, the vantage point of the mobile device applications that they're using, as opposed to how do I program those applications on the mobile device. So that's why you have this thing called digital literacy. It's very, very important when we're talking about a city like a Detroit, a Baltimore, even in speaking with the young man this morning. I mean, I have a computer right now sitting out here in my vehicle that I have to send to someone that's in North Carolina because they don't have access to a device right now. He was going to try to take the class from a Kindle. Truthfully speaking, you're not going to be able to take these classes that we offer from a Kindle, but you have to respect the fact that a person is wanting a piece of that vision that they see. Everybody else around me is talking about this technology, and I want to be able to tap into it, but I don't know no better. I think that this Kindle can get me a piece of what they're talking about. And then Carlos shows up and says, I'm sorry to bust your bubble, you won't be able to do it with that. But I have to be able to replace that. And so thankfully, with our partners such as a human IT, we can make those devices available to the individuals who need them at that time so that we can get them trained and get them in a better position in their lives.
Doris, based on your experience here at the school, is it safe to call this place a technology haven?
Yeah, that's a great word. Technology safe haven. I mean, and again, I've seen, you guys grow and everything there, but I think this space and the energy around the space and these two, as well as obviously he's got passion, lots of passion, for the mission.
Tell it how it is.
Right? He's got the passion. And Jamie, since, I met her, is like her vision of making this happen. But with everybody coming together, that's what this created. I believe in energy, you know, and I don't want to go into the spiritual, but I do believe in energy. As you can feel when you walk in a place and say, oh God, this, you know, feels a little off. When you walk in this space, even me walking into here was like, okay, you know, like I feel like inspired and comfortable.
But I think I think you should talk a little bit about, so Doris was she talks about energy in that, right? And spiritual, definitely. But I think that when you ask the question is, you know, how do you get them and train them, right? How do you get them to that level? Yeah. It's not necessarily, you know, getting them, you could say getting them younger, right? And training them younger and getting the city on board to recognize that this is a big issue, right? And that we need to start training them earlier in life, like 10th grade and 11th grade. But it's also getting them where they're at. And I think that when I talked about the mission, you know, that we have here and the people that worked for us or work with us and our friends, they all share the similar mission or passion behind what we did. And so Doris would actually take that individual and get them where they were, as opposed to getting them, you know, trained earlier in life, right? So she would get them and she would talk them through different barriers. She would help them get access to computers. If there was a will, there was a way in her mind, right? So if it was not knowing how to type, she would sit there and teach them, or she'd find the person to actually help them, you know, and learn how to do it. So I think that if you could talk more about that, because I mean, you know, when I think about when we started the school here, yeah, this was our 4th campus, right? And we merged everything together. But we were stuck here for a long time, you know, with licensing approvals and then students. I mean, all barriers. I talk about the students having barriers. We, as a school, had barriers. And that's why I say we all had a similar passion and we all had similar life stories, right? And we all connected because there was a point in time where, you know, it may look all rosy on the outside, right? We have this nice, big, beautiful building. We had all these lenders, blah, blah, blah. But Doris and I are talking about who's going to buy lunch because we only have $20 between us, you know? I mean, things like that. But again, we didn't lose sight of our mission. We didn't lose sight of what was really important. And I think that at those times, those were what made our school thrive today, is that we had people like a Doris and a Jamie and a Carlos who really did care about helping people.
So let me ask this real quick. So when we're talking to our students, I think one of the greatest takeaways you can have is the fact that I don't come from a traditional educational background, right? Jamie doesn't come from, you know, she has a PhD or a doctorate in education. We are, in fact, just like you guys.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
You guys won't hear, you know, on too many occasions where Jamie tells you that she dropped out of high school because she was a teenage mom. And because she dropped out, she had to go back to get her GED. And she got her GED. And she went on to college. And she did get a degree. But those are parts of the story that a lot of people just seem to forget about as you're coming into a DSDT and we have all this curriculum and we have all these people around us. We're talking about real life struggles like you guys are having as we're trying to get from the point of where we are to that vision that we see down the road. You know, and I think that can't get overshadowed with the now as opposed to where you guys are. Because we get it. We get it. When you're talking about growing pains, the school definitely had them.
With that, Carlos, therefore you have the merit to tell students this is what makes DSDT different from your standard institution, where they look at an instructor, professor, and they say, well, you really don't get it.
Right.
I promise you we get it. I promise you we get it. And then we can get it all into our backgrounds at some point, you know. We're talking about Carlos. I was talking to the young man who was at the homeless shelter last week, and it was about sending him a computer. I get it. I was at a homeless shelter, you know. So how can I sit and have a, you know, heartfelt conversation with a person that's at the bottom of their life as they're trying to figure out how to get it together?
Yeah.
You know, it took that out of me in order to be able to connect with that individual right then and there. You're talking about Doris, right? Doris is she's the godmother of career advisors. You know, I mean, literally, I used to tell her, quit being an enabler. You know, because, you know, sometimes you gotta have a little tough love when it comes to not only students but just people in general.
And you know, that's the one thing is I am that way, and them two would both get on me as like tough love. You gotta be, and we're all different. And my company's called Life on Purpose. Is we all have a different path, we all have a different energy. Is like we work with who we are. So the way I did tough love was, I'm like, Carlos, I was like, we got a situation over here.
So with the moral of the story is, when it comes to technology, passion, hard work, a little bit of tough love.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
it.
It all
I like
comes
it.
together.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Jamie, do you have
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to share?
I think that I just wanted to give Doris an opportunity really quickly to talk about what she's doing now with Life on Purpose. She is our guest. I wanted to invite her here so she could have time. Okay, Doris, so coming from our school and working here, you then went on to go and start your own company, which you've already had. Do you see that your company still can tie into what we do here at DSDT? And just tell us a little bit about that, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah.
All right. So Life on Purpose Detroit was, again, after the years of working with so many students, is, again, if they had the barriers, they had circumstances, they couldn't succeed. But the other part about it is that when you operate on purpose, and it's not pretty, growth is the hardest thing in life, is you start operating from your own frequency. So I have 2 programs. One I do job placement. But what my thing is I do all the things, like I don't work on technologies. I help them find, what are you good at? What are you obsessed with? What do you like to do? And what is it that you don't, and I'm not saying that you can't get better at it, but if you can lead them with the strength and the passion, they move. And so I work with that. I also work with growing Detroit's young talent. So I have 25 students, youth, 16 to 25 this summer that I'm working on, where they're going to go through character education, soft skills development, and work through the community. From DSDT, from being here, working with veterans, which I didn't work with before, returning citizens. I mean, I expanded, even though I've done this for, quite some time. It was here that I really learned not only just the part of education, but the business side. And that's what Jamie and Carlos is saying. I mean, there were days that we were just, rocking in a corner, like, oh my God. Like, to the point my hair was falling out, like, right?
I got cancer.
She got cancer.
Yeah. We're okay.
But we're all okay now.
We're all okay now. We survived it, but it was tough, but being an entrepreneur it's not easy. But I decided to finally I've opened up multiple schools for other people, and I think from Jamie and Carlos and our team, it was like time for me to do my thing. And like I really wanted to, and I've always been a disruptor of education, and not in a negative way. Again, is like I really have a lot of passion for what I do, and I believe in humans. I believe we all are here. We survived a pandemic. We're all alive today, and there's going to be major shifts, and I don't want to keep saying this new normal or what, because everybody talks about it, but it is going to be a new normal. True. And I didn't know when I was creating the company before the pandemic that now it's going to be needed more than ever.
And I think from hearing you say that, you asked about, what do you do to get the people to the level of where they can actually attend a trade school, right? Or a technical school. And she just said it right there, right? Character education and building them up and making sure that they know what their passion is or what they want to actually, prospect for a career. So,
and before in education, when I would bring up soft skills development, they were like, oh no. Remember what, even with us, and we're like, we got to meet the students. Like, literally, we have to meet these students. If they have, homeless or don't have food, water, and shelter, how are they going to show up mentally and emotionally?
Impossible.
It's just, it can't happen. That's in us as humans, as we said, we all have our stories of breakdown, and things that we've went through. Even when we couldn't, we split, like, we're like, okay, we have $20. What can we do to eat? But and we weren't operating at the highest level, because we know how it feels like. It's not coming from a place. And again, in education, I've worked with so many coworkers that haven't fell down before or don't know what that student feels like, right? Or the taboo of hit the hand, like, why don't you know? And I always say, you don't know what you don't know. But it's our job to teach just even one thing to individual. As humans, as everyday life, that's important. But for a school to do that as well, that's what we need more of. And again, now youth are suffering greatly. The youth is suffering greatly. So it's different things, is how can we retool I know you use that.
Yeah.
That came
Yeah.
through. Retool, and help people actually, they want to find purpose. They want to go to work. The restaurant industry is suffering, as we know, is we have to start getting creative. And technology is not going away.
Right.
It's going to be around
Right.
for everything. Is just meeting students where they're at. And you said, what was the 3 things you said?
Oh, passion, hard work, tough love.
Yes. That's exactly it.
Lots of tough love.
Okay, so I love the part about the passion, and I truly believe that you should do things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Let me give you a reality check.
Be
Okay.
a devil's advocate. I like
Yeah.
this.
The
Come on, bring it
reality
on.
check is that when you show up for a program, and hypothetically you want to be a graphic designer,
Mm-hmm.
once you receive the training after our 7.5-month program, and you have a job opportunity to become a help desk technician, show up for the job interview.
Right.
Yeah.
Show up for the job interview. Why? Because you never know what that is going to lead you to as you're trying to find the job or start the business based upon what your passion.
Thank you for saying that, because that is the first, and I appreciate that, because that's the thing I get the most. It's like, well, you can't just be, passion and purpose has this kind of negative kind of connection. Is that I'm not saying if they come in and said, I want to be a movie star, like that is your purpose on this earth. No, but what I do, and that, is we take the elements of what they like about that in order to, and I would do that with my students, is saying like, well, if you're so passionate, I even say like a game, like a video game. If a kid is so into that video game, like to the point where if the battery is about to die, they're finding, that.
Charlie.
It's Charlie, right?
Yeah. My grandkid. My
But
grandkid. Yeah.
It's true. It's not that to say video games is his purpose. There's elements inside of that operates. I always say with passion, it's 2 things that happen. When you're passionate about something, it will make you go no matter what. It could be 20 fires and you're like, I see my passion, you're jumping in. Or the second part about passion is that if someone knocks your passion, if you're very passionate about it and they're blocking you, that's when anger comes up. When you get triggered on something, it's like you're blocking something that is so important to you. Or if somebody reads something online and you're like, why is this like firing me up? Because it's going against some of your core passions. So I wanted to bring that up as like,
You just touched
Yeah.
You like Dr. Oz. Like Wanda Van Zandt or something.
no. I just want to.
Passion whisperer.
I just want to clarify that, because I get that so often. It's like, no, if you get a job, like, and I always told students, there's hundreds of companies, there's hundreds of positions out there. Let's take what you got and what you like and roll with it. But purpose, there's just so many elements. It's just finding what you do like. All right, that you don't have to. Charlie doesn't have to be in a video game. That's his purpose of life.
Charlie's my grandkid.
Yeah.
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 Thanks, Doris.
For Jamie, Doris, Carlos, Josh, this is the Tech School Podcast. See you.